A lot of people don't realize how fast child support can become financially overwhelming until they're already drowning in it. Now, the problem is many parents assume that they're stuck with their original order forever. And that's even when life circumstances have clearly changed. But the reality is that courts can modify your child support when there's a legitimate shift in income, parenting time, or other financial responsibilities. The key for you is to know what actually works legally versus what just creates more problems in the courtroom. I'm Kyle Kaufman, attorney at HKK Law Offices in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 ways to lower child support payments immediately. Here's number 1. You need to prove that there's been a substantial change in your income. And that could be a reduction, or if you're the person who is wanting to receive more child support, it could be because the payor, the person paying, their income has actually gone up. So what we're looking for in substantial changes of financial circumstances are things like layoffs, reduced hours, maybe there's less overtime, maybe the bonus income isn't coming in. Perhaps one of the spouses or former spouses or parents has now medical issues and can't work. The business has had a decline or there's a career change that was made in good faith. And perhaps the business where the other person worked just simply shut down. Now, in those situations where the income changes substantially, you can file for a modification. You can always ask for that modification from the court. Now, what I've seen hurting some people is that they wait too long. I'm not sure exactly the reason. They might think they're going to bounce right back into the workforce or a job's going to come their way. Maybe they're embarrassed. I'm not really sure. But I've seen people wait substantial periods of time while they're still ordered to pay the same amount, and now they're getting behind. So by waiting too long, it doesn't help. And courts will not backdate your child support reduction to the time that the income changed. If your income changes substantially, up or down, and it impacts child support, your ability to provide basic care and costs for your kids, file that motion. Get it preserved. Preserve that in time and say, hey, court, I need help here, one way or the other. All right, now number 2, is showing that the parenting time has changed. Now, a lot of times what I'm talking about here is where one parent's parenting time actually increased. So in most states, we're in Wisconsin, but in most states, the more overnight time you have with the child, the lower the support may become because the expenses even out between the parents. In Wisconsin, we count the overnights, and there is something called equivalent time as well for parents that work third shift and take care of the kids during the daytime. But the point is the more time you're spending with your children and sharing that time with the other parent, the likelihood is that you're going to pay less in child support. The equalizer to that is in Wisconsin, we have a term, and that term is called variable expenses. Now, variable expenses are things other than basic child support costs. We're talking about things like school expenses, extracurricular activities and fees, school lunches, other variable expenses that parents agree upon. So as your placement increases, so does your percentage of the contribution to those variable expenses. The third avenue to changing your child support order is to be mindful and watch what the other parent's income is and their earning capacity. So what I'm talking about is if you're a person who's paying child support, you have to be mindful and you have to know the parent who's receiving this support. What is their income level? In Wisconsin, we have a statute, we have a law that says you have to annually exchange your financials every year with the other parent. So that's a great way to keep track of that, to learn what the other parent is doing for income or not. And there are some situations where maybe initially the child support order made sense and maybe the other parent who's receiving the income worked less for various reasons. But over time, that expectation that they work more increases and that they can provide for the children. So you have to be mindful of that and watch that. So you want to look for things like a new job, if they are working a lot of hours, if they have bonus income, commissions, maybe some ownership in a business, side hustles are a big deal these days and what people are doing for that. Courts, when I first started, would kind of overlook that and say, well, we're not really going to do much with that. You know, it's income they can't really count on. But a lot of people are doing these second, third jobs, and they're making money doing it. And that does and should be contributed to the child support for the children. Now, if the parent who's receiving child support remarries, there are some situations where you could look at that and determine if that new relationship has an impact on your child support? Should you continue to pay child support if somebody is now cohabitating, if they're remarried? And if so, how does that affect the overall picture? And is that person contributing to expenses? It's not necessarily a guarantee. And in Wisconsin, we don't just add in the new spouse's income to the receiving parent's support or income available for support, but it is a factor to consider. Now, courts do care about updated financial reality and not what things look like years past. So we're taking a literal snapshot of the party's income at the time they're coming to court. Here's a fourth thing you need to know. Stop paying for things that the order already covers. I see this all the time. Parents who are paying child support and then they're paying more money to the other parent just because the other parent asks for it. And if there's not an order, you don't have to pay it. So you have to be very mindful of what your order says. Now, I want you to be careful here because you got to read it first. Read what your order of judgment says. Take it to an attorney, someone like me, and say, what does this actually say? What do I have to pay? And so a lot of times what I'm seeing is I have one parent, they're paying child support, they're like maxed out, and then the other parent is coming with these bills and saying, hey, gym shoes, I want you to pay half. And the other parent feels obligated to do that. Do they have to pay for those gym shoes? Well, it depends on your order in your particular case. So you have to be very careful about that. But you don't just have to blindly pay these expenses either without knowing what you're required to do by order. Now, there's the other moral part about it, right? And sometimes I think people get concerned about that. Well, I know I'm not ordered to pay it, but I feel like I should. And what happens if I go to court and they say that I didn't pay this? How will that make me look? And so on and so forth. Those are conversations you need to have with yourself first, how you want your life to be. And then as you're preparing with an attorney, you need to really have a relationship with an attorney to be confident in making these decisions. That's how I do things here. I like to have relationships with my clients. I learned over time that the more I know about them, the more that I can help them and understand what their priorities are and their needs and help them to make confident, important decisions in their life. The fifth thing of changing your child support order comes with changes in life. And we've talked about some of them already, but as kids age out in Wisconsin, you're responsible for child support until a child becomes an adult at 18, or if they're still pursuing high school. They're 18 years old, but still pursuing high school. And at the time they graduate, your child support order can end. Now, they could be up until the age of 19 that they're pursuing that high school degree. But I've seen some parents where they never come back to court. They never actually change that. They just continue to pay the same amount. Many times what people think is as that older child now ages out, that automatically the child support order paid and received will be reduced. What they're not considering though are the other changes, right? So it's not just the age. We've had other changes like income may have gone up for both parties. The placement schedule may have changed. So before you run into court, you file your motion, run into court and say, hey, I had 3 kids, original order. Now one's an adult in college, so my order should be reduced, right, Judge? What's the new number? You have to do your homework beforehand because remember, the court is now reconsidering support not based on your past financials, but what your financials are that day and what your placement schedule is. So those are 5 things on child support and changing your child support order, guys. We appreciate you watching this, and always reach out to a lawyer, talk to at least 3, choose one that you trust, and hire a lawyer in your family law case. We'd love to talk to you here at HKK Law Offices.